Hello and good afternoon. It's a beautiful, what is it? Thursday. It's Thursday all day. It's funny. I used to come on here and actually announce the date because it was COVID when I first started doing these. And I was talking about the origin stories today, how this started with me just singing "Oh Canada" in my backyard. And I haven't sung "Oh Canada" on here in a long time, and I'm not going to today. But it's been very interesting having a lot of introspection lately. But I had a great conversation with my girlfriend this morning. Say hi, Sierra. Oh, she's hiding. Never mind. But she is baking up a storm. She's in mad scientist mode. I don't want to disturb her. But we had a great conversation this morning about influence and about the people around us, how we either have the ability to be influenced by them or to influence them. And one of the things I've really been understanding about not only tools and tactics, the PTSD prevention part, but the grander scheme of things, it all comes down to communication, how we communicate with ourselves, how we communicate with our subconscious mind, how we communicate with others. And at the very basis of everything is how we choose to interact at first with ourselves and then how we interact with other people. It was very interesting this morning because we got each other all pumped up. That's why she's baking, getting some stuff going so she can put up her what the hell is it called? Instagram. Because it looks great. She knows how to take incredible pictures of her baking, and it's awesome. But we got each other pumped up. She got pumped up, and I got pumped up. And I was like, wow, isn't this incredible? How do you feel? And really quickly, I said, why don't you try something? She was sitting up straight and tall. I said, I want you to slump over and lower your voice and your head and your expression. And then said, how do you feel right now? Now, it's really easy for somebody who's in a good mood to model somebody in a bad mood. And it's very easy to feel what happens in your body when you slow down your talking and you slouch your shoulders. And, kind of end up looking like Eeyore. And then it's really easy to switch back to sitting with your shoulders up and your head up and breathing deeply and feeling that state of power. However, it's very difficult for people in a depressive state, the Eeyore state, for the older people who remember Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. Boy, am I dating myself. Anyhow, it's very easy for people who are in a good state to model a bad state. What's more challenging is for a person in a bad state to model a good state because they don't have a roadmap. And this is something that we need to understand about communication. We are all the time trying to communicate to one another and convey one idea from my mind to somebody else's, or even within my own mind. Now, this is the difficulty we face. I have troubles communicating with myself. My subconscious and my ego are a lot of times contrary to my conscious thoughts. Why is that? If I'm having that much trouble talking to myself, and boy, oh boy, it can be difficult sometimes. There's a lot of voices in there, and most of them sound like my mother for some reason. I kid. Mom, may you rest in peace. Don't haunt me tonight. Boy, am I going off track today. If we have that much difficulty communicating with ourselves, imagine how many conversations are going on in someone else's head as we're trying to convey an idea from our mind to theirs. And how little actually gets through the noise in their heads. Now, here's something that I heard many years ago, and it changed the way I communicated with the closest people in my life. In Western civilization, the onus is on the communicator to convey the idea. Meaning, if I want you to understand something, it's up to me to help you understand it. And if you don't understand it, I'm not communicating it effectively. Well, holy shit. Doesn't that say a lot about how we're talking to people? I remember I used to get frustrated with my mom trying to explain new ideas to her. But I was living in the city. I was exposed to more ideas and more things, and she just didn't have a roadmap for it. Once she got it, she really got it. But I realized one day I was getting frustrated for no reason other than my ineffective ability to communicate. Because if I wasn't conveying the idea, it wasn't her fault, it was mine. Some people just don't have a roadmap for those things until they do. I used a great example. I was standing out front of my place last night, and I said to my girlfriend, what's behind this building? She made a joke that, there's a parking lot. I said, yeah. And what's in the parking lot? She made a joke, oh, probably crackheads. And I said, do you know that, or is it a supposition? And she said, well, no, I don't know that. I said, well, here's the difference. Is I walked around back a couple of minutes ago and saw what was there. And at my last glance, that's not the same thing that you think is there. I know what's there. And that really makes you understand that people are supposing a lot of things about the world. And they have these ideas of the way things are. And they're blind spots. Though you can see the building, and you've seen what's behind it before, you don't know what's going on there now. And heck, some people haven't even seen behind the building. They've just driven past. And I know it's a metaphor, but the fact of the matter is, when you're trying to communicate with other people, understand they may not have the same idea of something that you do if they've never been there. The territory is not the same as the map. If you've been there, you can tell a whole lot different than looking at a map that you've seen online. There was one other analogy. Oh, no. There was something else I was going to say as I was saying this, because I got to a point that was like, oh, that was perfect. That perfectly apt, and I completely forgot it. That does happen sometimes. This train got derailed. Anyhow, when it comes to communication, it's up to me to communicate. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Thanks for reminding me. There's a great experiment where they had, I don't know who did it or when it was conducted, but I do remember reading it, where they would have two people sit down and they would tap out a tune. And this was really fascinating, actually. Like, there's the, shaving a haircut 2 bits. You could tap that out and everybody would recognize it, right? But if you tapped out, say, Rockin' Robin, a song that everyone would know. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, tweet. Know that song? Boy, am I going off the rails today. But if you tapped out, I can hear the tune in my head. But the person that they were tapping it out to couldn't interpret it without additional information. Though to me, that seems like, wow, that's totally the beat. How do you not recognize that? To the other person, they're like, yeah, you're tapping Morse code. I don't know. Understand, that's how we're trying to convey ideas between each other's minds. Language's only purpose is to convey an idea. And sometimes language is not the proper way to convey an idea. Let me ask you, honey, when I hug you, does that say more than me just saying, I want to hug you? Yes. That's the idea. So understand where you can communicate more effectively with body language, with tonality, and with words. Words are important, especially if you say them wrong and in the wrong tonality. They become real important real fast. But first of all, most of all, communicate with yourself correctly. Here's a little experiment. If you're out there walking around today and wondering what you can do to better yourself or better your communication with other people, put a what do they call it? Elastic band around your wrist. And every time you catch yourself saying something negative to yourself about yourself, snap that band. See how long you can go. Is it a day? Is it an hour? How long can you go without saying something negative to yourself about yourself? Try it for a week. See what happens. See how many times you catch yourself talking smack when you shouldn't be talking smack. You should be your best friend. And then imagine where you might be doing that in other areas of your life. Anyhow, that's it for me today. Please do me a favor, like, share, comment. All these things really, really, really help me. They really help get the channel out there and the messages, more importantly. It really is about that. I've been listening to Jim Rohn today. I'm like, oh, I've heard that story from Tony Robbins. Oh, well, I guess if I can hear those guys talking about it, well, then maybe I can start sharing those stories. And I don't have to claim that they're my own, but I could create my own metaphors around them or recreate those things in my life so that I can share them. It's very interesting. The message is what matters. So please help me get the message out there. Like, comment, share. It really helps. And if you want to know more about the fire stuff that I'm doing, the PTSD prevention, which I think is massively important today. The 3 top killers of firefighters today are heart attacks, cancer, and the big cell forever sleep, which is no bueno. I believe this is going to really help some people understand what's going on in their mind and get back control of it. So do me a favor, check out Tools and Tactics PTSDprevention.com. I'll link it down in the description below. Until tomorrow, know that I love you, and I'll see you soon.